Pokemon Hardcore Nuzlocke challenges can be difficult, and we've done quite a few in the past with some different twists. Some of the more popular Hardcore Nuzlockes are solo runs or teams with Pokemon that only share a certain type, but today we're going to do something that I don't think has ever been done before, and that is to do a Hardcore Nuzlocke on Pokemon Platinum version with only overpowered Pokemon. To explain the rules, we have the general Nuzlocke rules, where if a Pokemon faints, we can no longer use it in battle anymore. We can only catch the first Pokemon per each area, and the hardcore add-ons would be no healing in battle, no overleveling with the level cap being whatever the highest level is of the next gym leader's Pokemon, and playing on set battle style. I had my friend Sam modify the game for us a little bit to only include Pokemon that fit this difficult challenge and told him to just put any 3 starter Pokemon he wanted, so I hope he left us with some pretty good options. To highlight some of the Pokemon we can use here, there's Mewtwo, Dialga, Salamence, Kyogre, and whatever other overpowered Pokemon Sam decided to include. The catch rate should also be modified to make catching these Pokemon a bit more possible, as well as a few other quality of life changes. Before we take on this difficult task of this Hardcore Nuzlocke, how about a quick snack to keep us focused? That's where today's sponsor, Boxu, is here to help. Boxu is a premium, authentic Japanese snack box service delivered straight to your door. Boxu partners with many snack makers all across Japan, some of which have been around for over 100 years. You can order individual boxes from Boxu or multi-subscription boxes, and you can even get a discount if you use my link in the description. Each box has a theme to make them all unique, and this month's theme is one I'm very excited about, which is Otsukimi, or the Moon Festival. This is to honor the beautiful autumn moon in Japan as well as the autumn harvest, which occurs in September this year. I've had a few Boxu boxes in the past and always really enjoyed them, so I'm sure this one will be pretty awesome as well. Each box comes with this handy booklet to show you exactly what you're getting and to explain the significance and history behind each of these yummy snacks. One of my favorites from this specific box are the potato snacks made by Kato Seika, which are a thick, sweet corn potage. Although potage is traditionally French, it was adopted by the Japanese and is typically enjoyed from the June through October months, where sweet corn is best in Japan. If you want to get some Boxu for yourself, which I highly recommend, you can use code C10 and my link in the description to save 10% off your own unique, authentic Japanese snack box from Boxu. You really don't want to miss out on this, especially since this month's box is only available for September to honor the Moon Festival. Starting off, I name our character C, name our rival Weak because he is weak, and just go right into the starter selection screen. Our options here are Shaman, Entei, and Suicune. Not the worst starters, but they could have been a bit better. I decided on picking Manaphy since I figured securing a water type as early as possible would be good, especially for the first gym fight. In the very first rival fight, our rival has a Turtwig which does type trump us, but we have Tail Glow, so I just go for Tail Glow and then Bubble to knock it out. When we meet Professor Rowan, he asks us if he wants to nickname our Manaphy, so I name it Zarzan after the Water Cray elemental from Vanguard. And then meet Dawn, who teaches us about how to catch Pokemon and gives us some Pokeballs so we can catch some of our own if we wanted to. We're going to need all the Pokemon we can get to complete this challenge run. Luckily, Platinum has a lot of spots to catch Pokemon before getting your first gym badge. And some of these encounters included a Snorlax, which I caught and named Big Chungus, a Slaking, which I caught and named Lewis, a Moltres, which I caught and named Popeye, and a Milotic that I named Sneck. I unfortunately missed out on a Gardevoir encounter since it had Teleport, and although our encounters weren't the best, we'll try and make them work. I then grind up the team a little bit, mainly just Zarzan and Popeye, to level 10 for our very first rival fight outside of Jubilife City. Since I imagined we're gonna have a lot of team members shuffling around, I made this sick overlay to show all the team members we have, so you can follow along with us a bit easier. Against Weak, I lead with Popeye since it type trumps his starter Pokemon Turtwig, and it's able to lay waste to his Starly with a couple of Flame Wheels. I was a bit nervous that we'd lose our Moltres here, but luckily we didn't, and on this route we catch a Zapdos, which I end up naming Burb to pair with our Moltres, but it'll be in the PC for now. In Oreburgh City, I encounter a Gliscor in the route up north, which I caught and named Jacob, and then in the Oreburgh Mines, I caught an Aerodactyl, which I named Ragnarok. So far we have a pretty wide pool of Pokemon with a couple of reserves in the PC, although it would be better if we had a Pokemon like Mewtwo, Arceus, or even Furret. For Rorik's gym, the level cap is level 14, and since he is a rock type gym, we can't really use Popeye to much effect. I figure our best bet is probably just to use Manaphy and maybe set up a Tail Glow early on to ensure that all of our bubbles were one shot, so I end up setting up a Tail Glow on his Geodude. It's a bit risky, but it ends up working out for us, allowing us to one shot his entire team with Bubble. Although this was a pretty close battle since we did end up taking 7 whole damage in the fight. I then take care of Team Galactic with the help of Dawn in Jubilife City and then proceed along into Floroma Town. Along the way I caught a Crobat which I named Frowlin, which I think is how you say vampire in German, I just know it from a Yu-Gi-Oh card. And then I miss a Lugia encounter next to Floroma Town since it had Whirlwind and just effectively ran away. This would have been a great Pokemon to have for a couple of upcoming gyms, since I also think Lugia is probably one of the strongest Pokemon we could possibly get, but since we couldn't get it, I decided to just focus on leveling up Moltres for now, since Manaphy won't really be too good for the second gym as it's a grass type gym. We're then able to clear out Team Galactic in the Valley Windworks in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, and up north we get a Suicune encounter which I caught and named Ucine. We have a lot of water types for now, like this Milotic we caught earlier, so I'm not going to add it to the team, but in the forest we have to help Heracross, meaning we'll be in a series of double battles throughout the forest. Double battles can be pretty tricky, especially when you have a pretty weak partner in Cheryl who has just a Chansey, and a pretty subpar team all around on our end, making most of these double battles effectively just a 2-on-1. I did use repels when we went across with Cheryl though, so we can get a solo encounter at the end when she leaves us, but some of the trainers across having Pachirisu scared me a bit since Pachirisu is a pretty strong Pokemon, so strong that it even won VGC Worlds in 2014 before. We do get lucky getting through though without losing any Pokemon, and at the end we encounter a Heracross. Not exactly the strongest Pokemon, but it is a fighting type Pokemon which I do think will be valuable later on, so I caught it and named it Pancakes. Outside the forest we see a Gastrodon which I caught and named Muddy, further padding our box with backup Pokemon and another water type Pokemon. I add the Heracross we just caught to the team though and grind up most of the team to fight Gardenia. I focused on Moltres here since I figured it would be the best Pokemon for her grass type Pokemon, however it's only 4 times resistant to grass, which could be a bit better. In the battle she ends up leading with Turtwig which sets up a Reflect, and lives an Ember allowing us to force a heal. We can't go for Wing Attack as easily since a physical move and the Reflect is up, but we do manage to knock out her Turtwig with Embers, and we don't take any damage against it. Against her Cherrim, it follows a very similar fate to her Turtwig, however it does land a Grass Knot which scares me a bit. It ends up doing 4 damage, and then on her ace Pokemon Roserade it paralyzes us and goes for Magical Leafs. Assuming we don't get paralyzed about 10 turns in a row, we should be able to win this gym battle, and we do get lucky and break through against all odds, giving us our second gym badge. I then go into the nearby cave and catch a Bronzong which I named Belle, help the Bike Shop Man and Team Galactic in this building, and cruise down Cycling Road where we encounter a Garchomp in the cave down there. It has Dragon Rage which is very scary and quite overpowered as it almost knocks out my Zapdos, but I do end up catching it and I name it Shark. I'm also realizing just how many encounters there are in this game, especially early on. This is nice for us though since it gives us more options, especially if we end up losing any team members. In Hearthome City, the egg we got from Cynthia hatches into a Togepi, so I decide not to use it and just put it in the PC. And I also change up the team a little bit to add the Garchomp we just caught and the Aerodactyl we caught a while ago since Aerodactyl has Bite. It's the only Pokemon we have that can type trump Fantina's ghost type Pokemon, and with the level cap now being 26 for her gym, I grind up the team a bit in order to fight Fantina. Her lead Pokemon Duskull lives a bite with about 1 HP, but flinches as she heals. I then bite twice in a row to knock it out without taking any damage, and then I also flinch her Haunter and knock it out on the following turn. All that's left now is our ace Pokemon Mismagius, which lives a bite and heals with a Citrus Berry. Mismagius is a pretty powerful Pokemon and it ends up doing about a third damage to us with Shadow Ball, so as long as she doesn't get a critical hit or a special defense drop or even heal, we should be pretty good to win this fight. We end up knocking her down to 1 HP as well, which seems to be a pattern for this fight, but luckily she doesn't heal, allowing us to knock her out on the following turn, giving us 3 gym badges now. So far we've had a couple of close calls, but luckily we haven't lost any Pokemon yet. I begin to focus on leveling up Moltres again for Maylene's fighting type gym since it can type trump her whole team. As we exit the city, we have another rival battle against Weak in which Moltres is able to sweep, and then we catch a Blissey on the following round. I then breeze through into Lucian town and through to encounter a Roserade, then a Staravia on the following round. Nothing really too great lately, but I'll take them and put them in the PC just in case. Once in Veilstone, I immediately head to the next route south to counter a Houndoom, which I caught and named Doom, and then I set sights on our next gym battle. Moltres should really shine here, and after moving all of the annoying tires and punching bags out of the way, we finally get to face Maylene. Her lead Meditite falls swiftly to a wing attack from Moltres, and then her Machoke ends up living a hit and goes for Rock Tomb, which was pretty scary. We're 400% weak to rock, so this does a lot of damage, but I know I should still outspeed even after the speed drop, so I stay in to knock out the Machoke. Her ace Pokemon Lucario then comes in last, and I just stay in since I don't think it should have anything to hit us too hard, and it just goes for a Metal Claw, but it does get the attack boost, and luckily it gets burned, meaning we should be safe to win this battle even though we have pretty low HP. After a few turns of hammering away with Moltres, Lucario finally falls, giving us our 4th gym badge. At this point, I head over towards Pastoria City, and I have some pretty nice encounters around here. First up is a Deoxys, which I called it named DNA, then a Blastoise that I named Dawn, and then finally a Palkia, which I didn't name because I just think Palkia sounds cool enough. I then decide to add Palkia and Deoxys to the team over Heracross and Aerodactyl, making our team just a little bit better. Only 2 mythical Pokemon are on our team right now. If Deoxys even counts as mythical anymore, I really have no idea, so it's definitely lacking a little bit. I then tried to battle Crasher Wake, but forgot that we have to go back to Veilstone to help Dawn with Team Galactic, so I go back there to quickly help her and then teleport back to Pastoria thanks to Deoxys having teleport and thankfully not running away when I tried to catch it. Crasher Wake is a water-type gym leader, so Zapdos should be great here. However, he does have a Quagsire on his team, which can be pretty annoying because of its ground typing. I do have some grass TMs, but I figured we should be okay and I didn't want to waste them just yet. He ends up leading with Gyarados, which somehow lives a Thundershock with like 1 HP, and since I know he will heal on the following turn, I go for a cheeky Ancient Power hoping to get the boost, but we don't. But at the very least it does put him in range of another Thundershock to knock it out. He then goes to his Floatzel, which was his ace Pokemon here, and I thought he'd go into Quagsire first, but he didn't. I Thundershock it, but take an Ice Fang, and I know I can't live another since it did a ton of damage. This puts us in a little bit of a risky spot since I really don't want to lose our Zapdos, and I don't exactly have a safe switch-in for this Floatzel, so I go into Palkia because it does quad resist water, which is probably our safest switch-in, and then it knocks out Floatzel with some Dragon Claws. I then stay in on his final Pokemon, which was Quagsire, and spam Dragon Claws through one of his heals and finally knock it out. It was a bit closer since Palkia got pretty low here, and it did have its speed lowered multiple times by some of Quagsire's moves, but Quagsire was just so slow that even after the drops, Palkia was still faster. We now have some Team Galactic stuff to take care of, like chasing this guy around, battling him, and then meeting up with Cynthia, who gives us the secret potion which allows us to make our way into Celestic Town. In Celestic Town, we meet the leader of Team Galactic, Cyrus, and he challenges us to a battle. His lead Sneasel goes down to an Ancient Power from Palkia, then I Water Pulse his Golbat, and finally Ancient Power his Murkrow for the victory. I also realized here that we could interact with the meteorites back in Veilstone City to change Deoxys' form, so I go with Deoxys' defense form to tank some hits if we really need to. We then get the HM for Surf here, allowing us to go into Canalave City, where we have another rival fight against Weak. I lead with Palkia to dispatch his lead Staraptor, then go to Manaphy on his Rapidash and Zapdos for his Torterra and Floatzel. He's starting to really live up to the name Weak, and on Iron Island we encounter a Steelix, which really isn't too great, and our second encounter was a Dialga. It would have been so cool if we actually got Dialga as our first encounter to pair with our Palkia to boost our team a little bit since it's very much needed, but I just focus on the next gym fight against Byron Steel types for now. I figure that Garchomp and Moltres should be really good here, however I ran into a wild Sceptile, couldn't run away, had our lead Pokemon out there in Manaphy, which was our starter, and since I couldn't run away, it one-shot us. This is the first death of the entire run, and it came in a really unexpected and random way, so I just replaced Manaphy on the team with Heracross since I figured it would be better for Byron's gym. After getting through into the level cap of level 41, I head in to fight Byron and lead with Heracross. On his lead Magneton, I go for a strong fighting type move to knock it out in one hit. Then on his Steelix, I go for 2 strong fighting type moves before knocking it out since it lived the first hit. And then on his ace Pokemon Bastiodon, I, you guessed it, go for a strong fighting type attack to knock it out in one hit since it's 4 times super effective. This battle was a pretty close one, but now we finally have 6 gym badges. As we exit the gym, we have to go into the Kanalave library and learn more about the lore of the Sinnoh region, which interestingly enough makes no mention of Hisui, which is apparently the region that Sinnoh was known as before it was Sinnoh. I just think it's weird to have a library dedicated to the lore of the region and then not mention that whatsoever, but anyways, we now have to clear out Team Galactic again at the 3 lakes. In the first lake, we battle Saturn, whose team really doesn't like Palkia. Then on the next lake, we battle Mars, whose team also really doesn't like Palkia. And now we have to make the long trip up north to the final lake near Snowpoint City, where I catch this weird icy bird Pokemon along the way. Before we can enter the lake though, we have to take a break and battle the 7th gym leader, who we'll just call Candy for now. Her ice type Pokemon team is also weak to Heracross, however she has a ghost type in Frostlass which is immune to fighting, so I just focus on using Moltres for this fight as well. We really don't match up too well for this fight at all since our team is still kinda weak overall, and I just led with Moltres on her lead Sneasel. We take a feint attack but knock it out on the following turn in one flamethrower, and then her Abomasnow sets up the hail, which is kinda scary, but it also falls to one flamethrower. Then on her Piloswine, I was scared of having some sort of rock type move for our Moltres, but I guess I'll never know since it just got one-shotted by flamethrower too. And then her last Pokemon, Frostlass, goes for a double team, which could be annoying if we miss a lot of hits, but luckily we connect with our first flamethrower and knock it out in one hit. That battle was a bit difficult, not as bad as the previous gym, but with this badge we can now finally go to the final lake, where our rival Weak proves why he is so deserving of that nickname, as he lost to Team Galactic here, meaning we have to go through their hideout back in Veilstone now to stop them. At the end, we have another battle against Cyrus, and since I had Garchomp in the front, I switch right to Moltres so Garchomp doesn't die to his Weavile. We take an Ice Punch and get frozen, but knock it out on the following turn with Flamethrower, and on Crobat I go into Zapdos to Thunder Shock it. Really wish we had better electric moves for it now, but I guess this'll do. And then on Honchkrow I go back to Garchomp to just overpower it and defeat Cyrus. We now have my least favorite part of Pokemon Platinum, which might actually be why I prefer Diamond and Pearl over Platinum usually, and that is the Spear Pillar and then Distortion World. In a double battle at the Spear Pillar with Team Galactic admins, we're aided by Weak, and he doesn't really help that much. We carry him through the battle with Moltres, as nearly all of his Pokemon faint. I guess that means Weak lost his Nuzlocke since this was essentially a 2-on-1 battle the whole time, but after defeating him I get lost in the Distortion World for about 30 minutes before finally finding Cyrus for one last fight. I didn't really pay attention to his levels or what his team was even, so I was a bit underleveled going into this fight, but our lead Palkia is able to Type Trump his Houndoom and knock it out. Then on Gyarados, I tried to Ancient Power it and hope for some lucky boost to try and sweep the rest of his team, but we unfortunately don't get lucky and have to go for 3 Ancient Powers before knocking it out. On his Honchkrow, I go to Zapdos, which again I really wish had a better move than Thundershock since it does so little in this battle, and after getting knocked really low by Night Slash, I go into Garchomp. I'm able to take out Honchkrow here, and then he sends out Weavile, which forces us to switch into Heracross since I thought Heracross could take a hit from Weavile better, especially one for a Dark type move, but that doesn't happen as Ice Punch ends up doing more than half damage, and since Weavile outspeeds us, I just let Heracross fall here. I then send out Moltres, but it lives a Flamethrower somehow after going for it, so I have to go for a second one, and Moltres gets knocked down to really low health because of this from this annoying Weavile. He then sends out his Crobat, so I go into Deoxys to tank some hits and use Psychic, but Psychics really don't do that much damage to it, and I end up getting poisoned. I switch to Garchomp to try and finish it off, but it gets a critical hit with Cross Poison and then Air Slashes on the following turn to knock out Garchomp. I then send out Zapdos knowing I wouldn't outspeed, but anything I sent out would have just died anyway, and although Zapdos falls, we get super lucky here and paralyze Crobat with our static ability, allowing us to go into Popeye the Moltres and knock it out to defeat Cyrus. I know I joke about plot armor in a lot of my videos like this a lot, but that was actually pretty ridiculously lucky. except for the fact that we did lose half of our team in this fight from mainly just me being underprepared and not paying attention. Luckily, we do get a chance to catch Giratina here, so I just chucked the Master Ball at it to secure it, and then return to the overworld where we have to regroup a bit before battling Volcaner in the Elite Four. From here, we have to regroup while we make it to Sunyshore City, so I add Giratina to the team as well as this Magnezone we just caught and named Shocks. For some reason, I was thinking that Magnezone would be good for Volcaner when it really isn't, so when I realized I never got a Great Marsh encounter and went back to the Great Marsh just to find a Swampert, I for some reason decided on adding Magnezone to our team over the ground type Swampert. Once we actually make it into Sunyshore though, I marvel at this polygonal Munchlax rock statue, which I thought was so cool as a kid for some reason, and head into the water where we catch a Kyogre. I of course name it Shrek and make it the last member of our team. Heading into the Volcaner fight, his whole team is just a mono electric type, so I thought Giratina resisting electric would be enough to just carry us through the entire battle, but instead it gets paralyzed first turn by his Jolteon, so I switch into Palkia on a turn that I expect him to heal. His Jolteon then paralyzes Palkia as well, but gets knocked out by a Surf. On his Raichu, I stay in with Palkia to take it out with 2 Surfs, and of course it lands 2 Focus Blasts in the process to lower our health, and then on Electivire I get full paralyzed and put into the red HP, so I go into Deoxys Defense to tank some hits. Deoxys can't really take hits too well and barely does any damage with Psychic, so I have to switch again once it gets low into Shocks the Magnezone. I didn't know that his Electivire would have Fire Punch, but it does, and it does a ton of damage to Magnezone, but it thankfully still lives. I then go back to Giratina to tank some hits, and luckily knock out his Electivire after a few turns. On his Luxray, I stay in with Giratina, not realizing it has Crunch, so Giratina falls to a Crunch, forcing me to just go into Kyogre. I figured that we would either outspeed the Luxray and knock it out with a Rain Boosted Surf, or tank a hit and just knock it out in one hit anyway, and we do get a bit lucky and we outspeed to knock it out in one hit, giving us our final gym badge. We've been pretty careless this entire run, but trust me, the carelessness doesn't end here. And in Victory Road, we get a pretty nice encounter in Dialga finally, which we were able to add to the team. I name it Chili Dog because, well, if you know, you know. Then I make yet another careless mistake and leave my Moltres in on an Empoleon on some trainer in the Victory Road, and it ends up getting knocked out. This was our longest standing member of the team, so it is a bit sad since Moltres was very good for us. But considering how this is arguably one of the most difficult challenge runs you could possibly do, I'm glad we're able to hold on to a Pokemon like Moltres for so long. Once we make it out of the Victory Road, I immediately heal, then begin to plan out what team we should use for the Elite Four. The final team I decide on is Kyogre, Deoxys Defense, Magnezone, Palkia, Swampert, and Dialga. Not the best team you'd expect for somebody who's about to challenge the Elite Four, but I guess it'll do. I then grind everybody on the team to about level 60 since Cynthia's highest level is level 62, and lay waste to Week's intrepid team in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail in front of the Victory Road so we can finally enter the Elite Four. First up is Aaron, and against his Bug-type team, I make a pretty weird strategy of just leading with Palkia and going for strong moves like Surf and Spatial Rend for most of his team, then Ancient Power on his Vespiquen since it hits it for 400% damage. We coincidentally also learned Earth Power right as Aaron was about to send out his Poison-type Pokemon Drapion, which was perfect to Type Trumpet, making our next goal to defeat Bertha and her Ground-type team. I came up with another strategy here, which was to just lead with Palkia and click strong moves, which works for her lead Whiscash, her Hippowdon, her Golem, and then on her Rhyperior, I tried to preserve Surf PP for some reason and just go for Earth Power, which her Rhyperior lives, and then it goes for Earthquake, gets a critical hit, and knocks out Palkia. It was our best Pokemon for a while, so this really stings, but luckily Kyogre can finish it off to defeat Bertha. Third up, we have Flint and his Fire-type team, and since we don't have Palkia anymore, I invoke a new strategy, which is to just lead with Kyogre and click strong moves 6 times, which works out really well, as his whole team was Fire, pretty slow, and got outsped and one-shotted by Kyogre. Fourth up is Lucian and his Psychic-type team, so I lead with Dialga to tank hits pretty well and go for Flash Cannons or Dragon Claws. Lucian actually switches a couple of times in this battle, which I thought was a bit weird. First into his Bronzong, so I go into Shrek to knock it out, and then he goes back into Mr. Mime too, which I take it out with Shrek. I go back to Dialga on Alakazam to Dragon Claw it for the KO, then Deoxys Defense to take hits from Gallade before it falls, Then I go into Swampert to dispatch his final Pokemon, Espeon. All that's left now is the champion, Cynthia. She is arguably the hardest champion to face in any Pokemon game, especially in Platinum version, so I know this battle won't be too easy. I decide to lead with Kyogre to set up the rain and get some strong surfs off, which work really well for her Spiritomb, Roserade, and Togekiss. I get pretty low in the process and live with only 4 HP after Togekiss air slashes us when we're already pretty low. On Garchomp, I decide to just stay in with Kyogre and let it fall, and in the off chance we outspeed, we just get another cheeky KO. But unfortunately, Garchomp outspeeds and knocks us out with Flamethrower. I thought it was kind of weird that it went for Flamethrower on a Kyogre, but I guess it worked when I only had 4 HP. So I then go into Swampert. Swampert gets insanely lucky against Garchomp by flinching it with Waterfall on the first turn and outspeeding, and then on the following turn I go for Waterfall again, get a critical hit, and knock out Garchomp. I then Earthquake her Lucario to one-shot it, then spam a couple of Earthquakes on her final Pokemon Milotic, since it did more damage than I thought, to finally defeat Cynthia and complete this Hardcore Nuzlocke challenge on Pokemon Platinum. Although this is only one of the few Hardcore Nuzlocke challenges I ever attempted, I still think this one was the most difficult, if not one of the most difficult ones you could possibly do. Swampert was a surprising hero towards the end there against Cynthia, which saved us a lot, and although we did lose 8 total Pokemon, we still came out on top in the end, which was really cool. I really like the way this picture of all of our team looks in the Hall of Fame, especially Deoxys defense on the edge there. I want to thank Boxu again for sponsoring this video. Make sure to check out my link in the description if you want to check out Boxu, of course, as well as each and every one of you for watching this video. If you want to support me, the best way you can do so is by leaving a like and subscribing, and also by commenting down below, letting me know if you want to see more Hardcore Nuzlocke videos like this in the future, or what other weird Pokemon videos you want to see. Obviously, this whole video was a bit of a joke, since I'm not very good at Hardcore Nuzlockes if you couldn't tell, but it was still pretty fun since I got to use a lot of cool Pokemon you don't typically see in Hardcore Nuzlocke runs, since they tend to focus more on the challenge, and using Pokemon like this isn't exactly a challenge. I was way more reckless than I should have been too, but the pool of Pokemon we had access to really allowed us to do that with very minimal consequences, as I don't think I ever lost more than 1 Pokemon in a battle since we always had another really strong Pokemon to back it up. I also want to mention that I do stream some Hardcore Nuzlockes and regular Nuzlocks over on Twitch sometimes, which I'll link in the description if you want to watch them live. With all that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you all next time, and bye bye.